Happy Friday and welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. The portal is cooking. Miami's already scheduling visits, getting up on guys. Plus, you got a lot of big names entering every single day. We'll give you the latest in the transfer portal from a Miami perspective. A lot to talk about as Miami looks to reshape its team following signing day, following a disappointing loss to Syracuse. Got the path forward, know what you need to do. Now it's a matter of executing and seeing what comes through that portal because you never know what will come through day to day. First, I want to talk about some folks where you know what you're getting. That is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
What's up, D? Excited to hop right into the portal, man. It's no surprise that Miami's already making moves here. You wouldn't expect anything less from Coach Cristobal and his staff. Gotta get right after it after that disappointment last week and the way the season ended, obviously. But this is where you make your team better for next season, right here, right now. And we already have some names that we already understand are going to be visiting, and then also some potential interests, some quarterbacks, which everyone wants to talk about. You've said for a couple weeks now that you expect Miami to go that route for the quarterback, but excited to hop into it here.
Yeah, listen, you got the portal. Cam Ward last year, first team All-ACC, All-ACC Player of the Year, probably first team All-American. Can't hit bigger than that. If that was your only portal addition, it would have been a success. But you also had Damian Martinez, who had a very, very good year in the ACC. Zach Carpenter solidifying the center position. Simeon Barrow, first team All-ACC. Tyler Barron, Mish Powell, second team All-ACC, same as Francisco Malinoa from the previous year's portal. So there's a lot of guys that made an impact on this team that you had to get through the portal. It's just part of team building. You want to look, whether you get the top 5 class like last year or a lower ranked class, number 14 like this year, you still need to have a steady stream of portal players. Oregon's got a ton of portal players. Ohio State's got a ton of portal players. It's just the name of the game. Now it's about who are you getting, what quality, and what position, how much eligibility. All portal players are not created equal. You got to get impact guys through that portal, especially when you're recruiting high school now at a pretty good level. You have less holes to fill. You need to make sure the portal guys that you get are instant impact, high quality players with good character.
Yeah, and D, we have a couple offensive linemen here from Liberty that are going to be visiting Miami. Xavier Gray, one of them, Jordan White, the other. And you have to look at Miami's track record the last couple years at offensive line, and they've done pretty well with Matt Lee and then Zach Carpenter here back to back at center. Markel Bell, are we going to throw him in the mix since he was a JUCO guy? It's a little bit different, but if you're taking a guy like that who has limited eligibility, you got to hit on him, because if not, then it's a scholarship down the drain, essentially. So with these two, who do you want to start with, and what are your overall thoughts on it? Because you are returning a lot. People are excited about S.J. Alafatuli coming in here, Ryan Rodriguez coming back from injury, but you're losing a Jalen Rivers, who's played a ton of football. You're losing a Zach Carpenter, who was your starting center, as we said. So when you see the visits already lined up for these two offensive linemen, potentially could be more, right? What does that kind of signal to you about what they want to do on the offensive line here?
Well, first of all, we got a question from Daniel Rhodes that I want to answer right at the top. What are the dates for the current portal window? Portal is going to go all the way through the 28th. So you got about, because sign day was earlier this year, you got more time in December for the portal. So basically you're rolling through the end of the year. As far as entering the portal, then you're going to see that process continue through January. Cam Ward was a January guy. A few others were January guys. And then you got the post-spring portal, which we'll get to when we get to, but that was Simeon Barrow. That was Tyler Barron. That was
Sam Brown,
Deani Hill. We had a few guys come in there through that second portal window. I believe also Jalen Alderman might have been one of those. Damian Martinez. So, yeah, the second portal window is a big one as well. But right now, Miami is laser focused on the winter portal that will go through December 28th. So just jumping right into offensive line, and you were setting it up here. So right now, what we know is that Jordan White, who is a center prospect, has set up a visit December 17th, originally reported 11th, now the 17th. Gabby Arrudia, 247 all over that one. He is visiting for sure. Xavier Gray, his teammate, the massive offensive tackle, right tackle, has been offered. He reported that on himself on Twitter. I don't believe he has a visit set up, or at least I have not heard that. It has not been reported. We'll do some digging on that. But starting with the 2 Liberty offensive linemen, because we know we're in the mix there. Jordan White, 6'2", 300. He is the 6th highest graded interior offensive lineman on Pro Football Focus. I watched one of their games this morning. It was against New Mexico State. And Jordan White played left guard. But you looking at him and seeing his numbers, he projects as a center for Miami. He played center last year. 759 snaps, 11 starts. And just watching him, you could tell he's got that kind of like wrestler style where he likes to torque guys to the ground, low center of gravity, strong, balanced, pretty consistent player. He's not someone that shocks you with his athleticism like a CJ Alavatuli, who Miami got through traditional recruiting. But you could tell he's ready to play. Comparing to Zach Carpenter, Carpenter's bigger. This guy's probably a little more balanced and strong on the ground less. Of course, the levels of competition different. This guy was a super highly rated and productive player at the Conference USA level. Zach Carpenter coming from the Big Ten. But this is a guy that Miami's honed in on. And you want to get, if you get an offensive lineman, you want to get a guy who's highly rated and productive. This guy fits the bill again. He's the 6th highest graded, according to Pro Football Focus, interior lineman in the country, all levels. Xavier Gray, much different type of player. He's the one that's been offered but hasn't set up the visit yet. 6'8", 340 pounds. He's from Massillon, Ohio, which is like a factory of football. Originally signed with Akron, then went to Liberty, who's honorable mention all-conference last year. White, I should have said, was first-team all-conference. We'll see if Gray gets that honor this year. He's huge. Just watching the film on both of these guys. With Gray, he is a mauler. He is legitimately a big dude with a lot of power, with a lot of just ability to move people out the way. That's what Xavier Gray brings to the table. Pass blocking, a little shakier. The game I watched, he was beat a couple times. Yeah, I don't think he's a guy that's going to come in and take the spot from, for example, a Francis Mawanoa or a Markel Bell. I don't see that with him. So he is somebody that when I look at him, I see maybe a guard. The thing is, he's a big guard, right? He's 6'8". So is a 6'8" guy going to be able to get there in that portal, or sorry, in that guard position inside? It's hard to say, but we'll see how he goes and how Miami evaluates him. But I could see the vision from the power standpoint of him. Last Liberty guy I want to get to, Pete, because before you chime in, because I know you're a Liberty connoisseur based on NCAA football dynasty.
Yeah.
Caden Salter, the quarterback, who's also entering the portal. He's a guy that had a great year last year as a sophomore, transferred from Tennessee. Not as good this year. Watching the tape against New Mexico State, tall, good size, easy release, solid arm, hit some deep balls. I thought he was okay with his accuracy, but his receivers let him down a lot. He had 56% completion percentage. I believe he was 3rd in the nation in terms of his drops, not his drops, but his receivers' drops. 1,886 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 INTs. Major drop from sophomore year. We had 32 touchdowns, 6 INTs, ran for 1,000 as a sophomore as well, down to 589 yards this year. More of a straight line runner. He's not the most physical, balanced guy as a runner, but he's athletic and effective there. He's entering the portal. Some names you're hearing with him, maybe Syracuse, maybe FSU. Miami, I know, monitored him last year when he was flirting with the portal, ultimately came back to Liberty, but that's a name to keep an eye on as well. For the Hurricanes, I'm sure they are taking a look at that. So, Pete, you're a Liberty guy. Let me know.
Well, I mean, look, I've been a fan of Salter. I don't think he's not perfect by any stretch, but, you surround him with a legit power run game and some talent on the outside. And I'd be really intrigued to see what he can do. And it's the ability for him to be a dual threat guy too, right? So he can really run the football as well. So the offense might look a little bit different, but I'm with you. It looks different when the ball gets out of his hand, when he releases it. It's pretty to watch. Now, again, prone to mistakes, right? Which we saw from Cam Ward coming into Miami, which was for a variety of reasons, cut back on a lot of those mistakes this year. But I think the upside is really high with Salter.
Yeah, and he's going to have interest. One thing I did notice watching the film is he was an emotional player. He was getting upset when he had some drops, showing his frustrations on the field, the demeanor.
And he was at Tennessee previously, had some issues there. So you have to obviously look into all that and see that he's, matured to the point that he can be the leader of your team, right? Cam Ward, that they did that vetting process. And that's part of what this portal process is about. Is very difficult to learn what these kids are all about, D, in this microwave recruiting process that goes on, because it's not like high school where they have months and months and years almost to build these relationships. Even if a coach, they're getting recruited and a coach leaves from one school to the next, they still have that relationship with the coach. This is a completely different story, talking to coaches they've never dealt with for the most part. A lot of times, yes, there's some movement, and I'm sure there's going to be stories about guys who were recruited at other stops by these guys. But to me, that's where it's almost as much like the staff is learning about these guys in the process the same way that the recruits are learning about the schools.
That's right. It's an evaluation process. I know there's guys in Miami who's brought in a business, and then I heard afterwards, hey, not for us. So especially after you'll learn what the portal brings, sometimes maybe you take a chance on a guy the first year you're there, then you say, I don't want to do that same kind of mistake again. So it's an evolving process for both parties. The Liberty guys, the one that jumps out is the one that's visiting, right? Because you could slide him into center. The big dude, Gray, he would have to be a guard. And look, I remember Jonathan Ogden was a guard when he first got into the NFL at 6'8", pretty much the same size as this guy. Now, Ogden is probably the best offensive lineman of all time, or one of them, certainly a freak from a movement standpoint. So that's not someone you want to use as like a benchmark, but there's only so many 6'8", 340 guys around. So where they see him fitting, to me, is an interesting wrinkle. You have Matt McCoy coming back too. Matt McCoy's going to play as well. So you don't necessarily have a space at guard, but they offered him. So obviously they like what they see, his potential. Do you bring him in and redshirt him and then have him replace one of the tackles that leaves? Would he be willing to do that? I think that'd be a smart move for him, because his NFL potential would eventually get increased being coached by a guy who's producing NFL offensive linemen year after year. But, we'll have to see how that one plays out. But I thought that was interesting that you offered a big tackle, thinking the tackle is going to be a strength for you. With White, he slides into center. That's easy money. And Salter, they're monitoring there. I know they monitored him last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Mario was already in the process of, trying to get to know him. I mean, look, this is my last thing on Salter too. I said he was a dual threat guy. He ran for over 1,000 yards last year, right? Like, that's a huge, and yes, prone to mistakes, like I said, but this is a guy who only threw 6 interceptions this year, 6 last year and 5 the year before. Yes, competition, all of that, huge step up, understandable. But for the most part, I think I really just, like I said, the upside's high there. I think the explosive plays, the way we saw Cam Ward, maybe in a bit of a different style, but I think the ceiling could be really high there. And you surround him with what Miami potentially could have there. And yes, there's still question marks and holes to fill, but I think, to me, and we had a comment here saying that need a surefire prospect at QB, Liberty guys, suspect, take him if we miss. I'm with you. Everyone would love a surefire QB. We don't know who that's going to be yet. That's why we're doing our speculating of our own, because we haven't heard anything that these guys, both Salter and then the next quarterback we're talking about, the Miami's reached out to them yet. But we can tell you that Salter and Miami had contact last year. So it's not like that bridge of communication couldn't be reopened.
Absolutely. Dead on. So switching gears to the Beacon Adjusters portal prospect of the week. We always did the Beacon Adjusters player of the week, player of the game. Of course, it's the offseason. Won't have a game until we find out where we're playing in the bowl. So we're switching to the portal here, which is where it's at. So with respect to the portal and the Beacon Adjusters portal player of the week, I picked somebody. I have not confirmed that Miami has interest. I know there's people in the building that are big fans of what this guy brings to the table. I can confirm that. Have we moved on that? I can't confirm yet. Miami's very close to the vest on their portal movement at quarterback, particularly because it's such a volatile, high interest situation. I'm digging. I can confirm, though, with respect to this player, there's people in the building that are big fans of this individual, and I'll count myself as one outside the building who likes him, although I was in the building a couple of days ago, but someone who's outside the building who likes this player, and that is Jackson Arnold, the Beacon Adjusters Prospect of the Week. This is the Oklahoma quarterback, just entered the portal. Here you see him against LSU, throwing a beautiful ball. This guy's got arm strength for days. Kind of an interesting path here. So just to recap the Jackson Arnold experience, he was a 5-star player in the class of 23. That's with Francis Malinois, all those guys. Arch Manning was the number 1 player that year in the country. Jackson Arnold was the number 10 overall player in the country that year. Consensus 4-star player. He goes to Oklahoma, shows enough in practice and in the bowl game that Oklahoma decides to let Dylan Gabriel go, basically pushes him out the door to go to Oregon, where he's now the number 1, quarterback of the number 1 team in the country, so that Arnold would not transfer and then would start as a sophomore. With Arnold this year, circumstances around him were extremely difficult. You basically had his offensive line fall apart. They were one of the worst offensive lines in the nation. They're down there with FSU as far as run blocking, pass blocking, horrific. And then receiver-wise, his top 5 receivers were hurt. I mean, top 5 receivers were hurt. So you're talking about walk-ons, no ability to throw the ball at all, whether it was him or his backup who got a couple starts and didn't really do much with him. So Arnold had an up and down season. He was, like I said, benched at one point, ultimately went back with him. I felt like I was watching Bo Nix at Auburn. Bo Nix was a 5-star quarterback at Auburn, played early, didn't have much around him, and the coaching staff was kind of falling apart, and he was a scapegoat for a lot of stuff. He was benched at one point, goes to Oregon, plugs in with a great offensive line, great running game, more stable program, and he ends up being one of the most prolific college quarterbacks we've ever seen. Now on his way to potentially the NFL Rookie of the Year. That's I'm not saying Arnold is that path, right? That's a big projection to say. A lot of things have to go right, but that model of taking a 5-star player with talent and plugging him into a system that's going to better, let him be himself as opposed to having to be Superman without much around him. I think you see that kind of situation. Looking at the numbers, 62%, 1,421 yards throwing, 12 touchdowns, 3 INTs. So he wasn't mistake prone despite not having any receivers. He just didn't have the juice, right? There's nothing around him. 12 touchdowns, 3 INTs. And then this is where I think Arnold is really intriguing, is running. 444 yards running, 3 touchdowns. And I think he can do more with a great offensive line, great running game that Miami will have next year. That's one thing you could take to the bank with Miami. You bring back 4 of your starting offensive linemen. You bring back Jordan Lyle, Mark Fletcher. You added Gerard Pringle. Who knows what happens with A.J. Allen and Johnson. You get one of those guys probably back. So this is a good running game. And a guy like Arnold, I think, can have a Bo Nix type development with the talent around him.
And again, he is the Beacon Adjusters Portal Prospect of the Week.
Well, before I do the plug, I wanted you to give your thoughts on him. What do you think about Arnold?
No, I like again, the upside is nice, right? You would have wished that he had more success this year. All of it, he was missing so many receivers, so it's not all on him. Obviously, shows good flashes. Ward was probably a little bit more. I'm kind of going for the Ward profile now. If it's not going to be someone who's a complete, because Ward had his issues too, right? The turnovers, the winning 5 games, winning 7 games in his 2 years at Washington State. But his numbers were still really good. I don't know if Arnold, the talent's there, but I don't know if he had the same consistent run of success. So maybe so. And that's why the Salter thing, look, it wasn't a great year statistically. Someone, I think it was Kyle, said in the comments that he didn't have great numbers this year. The touchdown numbers dropped big time. I don't think he had the receiver talent around him. And again, the touchdown numbers dropped, but the interceptions didn't skyrocket, and he's played a lot of football, man. Like, he's played now 3 full seasons as a starter. And there's going to be other guys with profiles like this, but to me, or 2.5 full seasons as a starter. So to me, I that's why I'm bigger on him than I am some of the other guys out there.
Yeah, and Beacon Adjusters, you know how they get down. They are, if your property has been affected by Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton, or any other storm, Beacon Adjusters Group is here to help with years of experience handling storm-related damage. We work tirelessly to ensure you get the compensation you deserve. From assessment to settlement, our team of trusted experts will guide you every step of the way. Don't face the aftermath alone. Let Beacon Adjusters Group restore your peace of mind. Call us today, 954-466-4224. for. I want to talk about someone else, Pete, who was an interesting one to jump in the portal, and that is Berrien Brown out of Kentucky. So, story on Berrien Brown, take you behind the curtain a little bit. Sometimes these players have agents, and the agents will reach out to various schools and say, listen, if my guy jumps in the portal, would you have interest? And coaches basically say, yeah, listen, he's not in the portal, so, we're not trying to get him, but I mean, do we like the player? Sure. So Berrien Brown's a guy that has been shopped quite a bit over the past few years and ultimately stayed at Kentucky until this season. Talent-wise, this guy is a complete speedster, 6'1", 182, originally from Nashville, Tennessee. Look at the stats. They don't blow you away. Career 1,500 yards, 12 per catch, 11 touchdowns. Last year, 361 yards, 3 touchdowns. They didn't really have a great passing game with Brock Vandegrift. But returning, man, this guy's unreal. He's got 5. This is not a typo. 5 kick returns to the house in the SEC over 3 years. I mean, that's a difference-making player just on that alone. The speed speaks for itself. I think if he had a better offensive system, he could do more. That's not to say that he's going to go from 300 yards to 1,300 yards, but Kentucky was a really, really bad situation for him in terms of what he can do. He's someone that's got more talent than he's shown. Miami has liked his talent for a while, but, he wasn't in the portal. So what more are they going to do? Now that he's in the portal, he's going to be an interesting name to monitor for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think he's sort of a missing piece, so to speak. It's tough to say missing piece when you don't know a lot of the other pieces that are going to be around him. But that speed, man, that game-breaking ability is just something that, to me, has been lacking, right? And he looks like a yak monster. The special teams ability is, of course, huge. It's just something different about him in terms of the anytime he touches the ball, it looks like it could be a score. Because I don't know. I mean, I thought Sam Brown could be that this year. He wasn't. And I think that's really what you're looking for. But that's what a lot of other schools are looking for too. So I'm sure that'll be a tough battle.
Yeah, just in general, it's interesting with the question for Miami is, do you replace Xavier Restrepo as that get open, catch everything threat? I think that's probably where I'd lean if I'm allocating resources. Or do you get something we didn't have last year, like you mentioned, Pete, which is that deep threat? I mean, it's amazing with the number 1 offense in the country without
hitting a deep. I was telling someone else the other day, did we hit any deep balls this year? Like legit, just like go Sam Brown up the sideline.
That's one. Yeah,
that's the one. I mean, but that's for as good as the offense was, they weren't bombing people this year.
No, Horton didn't practice a lot. As far as those posts, Horton was a post monster. I'm surprised we never got to that. Maybe the bowl game, but Horton caught a lot of post right for touchdowns, long touchdowns in practice from Cam Ward. Didn't see that in the season, so we didn't really have a deep threat. We had a great offense. Hard to be better.
Johnny
than
Lagoon says Arroyo versus Virginia Tech, but that was kind of a deceptive 4th and 1. It was a play action. He came free right up the seam, but that wasn't like, hey, just go get the ball. I don't know.
Bagging up saying, I've been telling you guys all year this offense wasn't scary, no speed. They were pretty scary. They were the number 1 offense in the country in every stat by a lot of margin. But that was a weakness, man. You're not wrong. It's not like that. They had every single thing A+. If you're looking where they didn't have an A+, I would say the ability to just truly threaten the safeties with one mistake will cost you a 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, our best deep threat this year, believe it or not, I'm pretty sure. Let me just check the numbers, but I think our leader in yards per catch was Restrepo.
Okay.
I mean, he was well over 16 yards per catch. So I'll take the final numbers now because I'm actually curious on that. Maybe it was Arroyo as far as yards per catch leader on the season. Yeah, so Arroyo had 17 yards per catch. But if you look at just the receivers, Restrepo's at 16 yards per catch, Jacoby 14 yards per catch, Isaiah Horton 11 yards per catch, Sam Brown 14 yards per catch. So, it was really Restrepo that was getting. Restrepo, that shows you how good Restrepo is. That not only did he have so many catches, he had chunk catches, big catches. You saw Syracuse, you saw Georgia Tech, the 2 games we lost, he was still getting down the field. So we need wide receivers that can get down the field. We also, kickoff return, did not break any, right? So this guy's pretty much a guarantee to return a kick that can win you a game. one kickoff return for a touchdown. Miami's amazing that they won games that they allowed kickoff for touchdowns, Louisville and Wake Forest. Usually when you allow a kickoff for touchdown, you lose that ball game. That's what the stats show. It's just such a backbreaking play. So this is an intriguing player to me. I don't think he solves the Restrepo problem, but he brings something unique to the team.
Getting some comments here about hopefully Horton not transferring and all that. I haven't heard anything about that. People are saying it could be like a Colby Young situation. I think Miami definitely values Horton. I don't know if they valued Colby Young the same way.
Rich 2 times. Concepcion from NC State would be great. He's kind of like Barry Brown in that his agent calls a lot of people on him all the time. I think there's interest in the player. He's a whole different category. So you have Restrepo leaving, who's your just go-to wide receiver. Go-to number one. Doesn't look like it body-wise, but in terms of how he's targeted, number one. You need a speed receiver. You don't have that on the roster. Concepcion's a different category, which is hand him the ball and or throw him a short pass and let him work. He's really almost a running back. He's very similar to me to Brashard Smith, except he, as a freshman, was more productive than Brashard Smith was at any point until this year when Brashard Smith moved to running back and had a big year for SMU. So Concepcion, I don't think he's going to replace Restrepo. I don't think he's really going to be your deep threat, but he brings something new to the offense, which is that ability to catch a short pass and go to the house and take jet sweeps, which, I mean, how many jet sweeps do we have this year? Not many, and they weren't that effective. So Concepcion brings a new angle. So here's the big picture. We're talking about wide receivers. I think this is going to be a buyer's market with the receiver position. Some positions are going to be thin. To find a very athletic, good corner is going to be tough. To find a very smart, productive safety, going to be tough. Not saying it's impossible. Certainly hope it's not, because Miami's in the market for both those positions. But you're going to have less options. Defensive tackle, that big kid from Kentucky, he's going to get all the money he wants because that's such a rare position when you have athleticism. If you're talking about receiver overall, I believe that is going to be a position where the market's flooded with good ones. By the way, appreciate you, Rich, 2 times. Get a question in if you haven't, if you want another one.
And Reem Rowe also asked, can we find a defensive coordinator in the portal?
Like I said, I'm not the person to sit here and say advocate for changes, but if you're asking my prediction, I would predict, significant changes on the defensive side of the ball, and we'll see where that goes. But that's going to be my prediction until I'm proven wrong. But I think on that one, I think I'll be right. But receiver is going to be a buyer's market. There's going to be a lot of receivers in the portal that you're going to be able to land and to improve this roster. But I appreciate both you guys for your support. But I think that's a position that it depends how many you need. I think from Miami's standpoint, you got JoJo Trader. He's got to play. You got Nikar. He's got to play. Get a receiver in there to help replace Restrepo, but don't get like 3. You don't need all of them. I've got a question here from Brandon. Is Coach O available in the portal? I mean, here's what I can tell you about Coach O. He's at every practice. He's at every game. Talking about Miami Hurricanes. His son is on the staff. He lives in Miami. He's at every practice that I've been at, which is a lot. Every game. I see him in Miami Beach all the time. I think I work out pretty early. I go to Sunset Harbor, work out at like 6 a.m., and this guy's already in a full sweat, more tan than me or any other Hispanic in the area. The guy gets plenty of sun. So he's loving Miami. What does he want to do? I don't know. I mean, is he a defensive coordinator? Is he called plays on defense? I'm not sure. His bread and butter is probably more on the defensive line coaching side. That's what he did at Miami when he first made his name with the Warren Saps, The Rock, everyone else. That's what Gio's saying here. But he's here. I mean, look, you don't have to look far. He's in the building. He's at every practice. He lives here. His son is here. So, and he likes it here.
And like Mario, we know Mario has brought in people from the outside D who have coached other places, who are vets in the game, to come in and watch practice and give him his thoughts. So like, I'm sure if Coach O wanted to give, his thoughts, Mario wouldn't, would have an open ear to things as well. But at the same time, Coach O's been the head guy. He's been a coach. So he knows it's not always the best thing to have people who aren't coaching in his ear about certain things. So he's there though, like you said. And if if he wants to really do something, I'm sure he can get more involved as he wants to get.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Pete, it's a delicate balancing act. Coaches are sensitive for these kind of things. Yeah. There's people that are on staff as analysts, and there's people just around the program. He's not an analyst, so has no affiliation with other than the fact that he lives in Miami. He likes living in Miami. He's got a lot of money to spend.
His son's on a coach,
and his son is a coach on the staff. So, as I believe he's a defensive quality control. Let me get you.
I think he's with QBs, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, because he was a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the corrections.
Yeah, Cody.
I'm pulling up his bio now. Yeah, because he actually, funny story about Cody Ogeron. He was the quarterback that faced Cam Ward in Cam Ward's first game at Incarnate Word.
That's funny.
Yeah, so Cam Ward's he's an analyst on offense. So Cam Ward's first game at Incarnate Word, the opposing quarterback was Cody Ogeron. I think he was doing a heck of a job. I believe there were big favorites in that game. Cam Ward came and won the game. And that's how he became Incarnate Ward's quarterback, and the rest is history. Now, first team All-ACC Player of the Year, very likely to be first team All-America with his banner up there in the rafters.
Another name in the portal that Miami has, had some rumored interest in is Julian Humphrey from Georgia. Anything on that one, the cornerback?
I mean, we're in the market for corners. I think 3 defensive backs, which could be a corner, nickel, and a safety, is what you're looking at total. Could be more. That was before the season totally went away. Got away from us here at the end with the passing game.
Look at that potential battle right there.
Yeah, there's a reason why big names are after this dude. He's got speed. He's got size. He started games in the SEC. Didn't play very well for Georgia. But how many guys in the portal do you see every year get drafted? Guys tend to find their way in the right system, the right scheme, the right time in their lives. He's obviously got the talent. I'm also seeing some comments here about Zachariah Branch, right? Which is interesting. I'm gonna pull up some stats that will surprise you, because it surprised me when I looked at it. So, Zachariah Branch, this is the receiver from USC, entered the portal. I believe did he officially enter the portal?
I don't think he has officially entered the portal. No. It's just been rumored for a while, but I don't think he's in the portal yet.
Oh, he's not officially.
No, I just looked it up. It doesn't seem like he is.
So. Well, I know he's been rumored too, and I got a lot of questions about him, but this will surprise you. So average punt return, right? I agree that Ray Joseph hasn't been phenomenal for the Miami Hurricanes. I expected probably more from him as a returner. I'm sure he did, and everybody else did. Great kid. And has talent. We've seen him return, but it hasn't gone all the way. He's 47th in the nation in punt return average, Ray Joseph. Where's Branch at? 59th in the nation in punt return average, which surprised me. I thought this guy was going to be like a Hester type, returner.
The way that people comment about him, and we love the commenters, but it seems like we get comments about him every other day on here.
Yeah, and and you look at the stats, it's not anything amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a system. He looks athletic to me. I've seen when he was a freshman.
Yeah, he looks good when he's got the ball in his hands, but the numbers are underwhelming. Yeah. 31 receptions last year for 320 yards and 2 touchdowns, 47 for 503 and 1 touchdown this year. So weird.
Yep. Got some comments here on CJ Hurd. That's a fit that makes sense. CJ Hurd, FAU. I believe he made True Freshman All-America. I don't know if he ultimately, let me check the list that just came out. He was in the mix for True Freshman All-America. He was on the mid-season True Freshman All-America list for FAU. True Freshman starter, multiple years of eligibility, obviously right up the road. On3 reported that Miami did have interest there with this player, CJ Hurd. So, we'll see how that goes. But that's somebody that Miami will have interest in. Let me just check if he made the True Freshman All-America list, which, by the way, while we're talking about it, I know one Cane from South Florida made that True Freshman All-America list, and that is somebody by the name of O.J. Frederic. So pull up that list so people can see that list. So, no, CJ Hurd made the midseason All-America list. He didn't make the final. Coy Parrish, yeah, he's definitely one of those from Minnesota. KJ Bolden from Georgia. Can't argue with those two 5-star type recruits, 2 guys that played at a very, very high level as freshmen. But OJ Frederic from the Miami Hurricanes made it. Now, that on-3 true freshman All-America list did not have a tight end position. I wonder if Elijah Bolden sneaks in there. Elijah Lofton sneaks in there. We'll see. You got a lot of engagement on this NCAA post, but why don't you pull that one up? Because
yeah, OJ Frederic now a top 5 rated freshman on defense, I believe. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, so those of you who don't play the video game,
Zachariah Branch is really good on the college football game, D. So I don't know. I think it might have some. I think all the people commenting, it might have something to do with that.
There you go with the speed. Yes. So the EA Sports video game, they'll rate players at the beginning of the year, but then they update the ratings based on performance. So it shows you, it's a good measure of national perception of your players.
It's a really good measure of national perception. It's like, to me, it's like the most important. It's not important, but like in a sense, it's kind of like the end all be all in a way. Shows you what everyone really, really thinks of you.
Yep. So there you go. Look at this list here. So first of all, some familiar names. The top 2 names were names that Miami recruited extremely hard and had traction with. You know, I mean, you don't ultimately get those players, but you're swimming in the right sandbox here with Dylan Stewart, with Colin Simmons, guys that made multiple unofficial visits to the Miami Hurricanes. Ultimately, you don't finish the job. But
stuff like this is important, though, for the hype for him going into next year, D, in terms of recognition and All-American stuff and things of that nature.
Oh, for Federico, for sure. I mean, obviously, he didn't finish the way he wanted to, but certainly you like that company, right? Because look at the names on this list. I mean, Coy Parrish, we mentioned. This guy was a big recruit out of Minnesota, multi-sport guy, and is super, super, super talented and played awesome. I watched him against Penn State. He was going toe-to-toe with Tyler Warren. So this is a name-brand player. He'll probably be a preseason All-America first team, if I had to guess. KJ Bolden probably will be joining Coy Parrish on the preseason All-America list for Georgia. And then the 2 guys up top that Miami recruited hard at defensive end, Dylan Stewart and Colin Simmons. So, I mean, that's an all-star list, all highly rated guys. Talk about evaluation. The only guy on that list that was not a highly recruited player in that top 5 was OJ Frederic. So it's not just that Miami got him, it's that Miami evaluated him, right? The other 4, you didn't need to be a great evaluator to know those guys were great players. They were 5-star players, highly rated players, highly recruited players. Frederic was an evaluation, committed to West Virginia, 2-way guy, hadn't really blown up yet. Miami identified him. Dennis Smith had a big part in that evaluation, pushing for him, getting him in the boat, and now he's up there with these 5-star players. So evaluation is a big part of it. I think evaluation on defense has not been a bright spot so far, right? You've seen the results on defense, not where you want them to be. You had a lot of kids out of high school. I think some of the guys, particularly in the 24 class, you'll see more of next year on the defensive end, and those guys should prove to be good evaluations. But if you're talking about, to this point, evaluations on defense have not been as good as they've been on offense. Frederic, a bright spot, and the fact that he's up there with those 5-star names based on his true freshman performance, I think is pretty impressive.
D, we haven't said it enough, man. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on Twitter, go to YouTube. We do these shows every day, Monday through Friday. Then we have the instant reactions. We have basketball game tomorrow, ACC opener. So it's a new season, new slate after an awful last 5 games here. And we've got almost, 1,400 plus in here right now. So go hit that like on this video and subscribe to the channel as well, please.
Yep. Bob Boney saying 2 of your 2 biggest names on your portal wish list. Realistically, mine are Thieneman from Purdue and Jackson Arnold. I think here's the funny thing. So today's is December 6th. The portal really doesn't open until December 9th. So if your coach leaves, you can jump in the portal, right? That's for sure. Purdue is an example. That's why the whole Purdue team jumped in the portal. If you've already graduated, you could jump in the portal. Or you could do what a lot of these guys do and just announce that you're in the portal without actually being in the portal. But really the 9th when the portal opens. So I think you're going to see a lot of action here on the 9th because some guys that maybe they don't want.
As we have breaking news right here, D. Antonio Tripp, offensive lineman, has entered the portal.
All right, well, good to break the news here. So Antonio Tripp, player from IMG, originally from Baltimore. We interviewed him on Canes Connection. He was a really, really cool kid. nice attitude, really just a joy to talk to. I think what hurt him here was his body was really only suited for center, and he just wasn't there with the other centers that were on the roster. So you had him playing guard, you had him playing tackle, and he just didn't have the size, I think, to keep up, with some of these other individuals. So for him, I think he either is able to play center and get it done that way and find a way to play center for somebody, or he goes to a MAC team or somewhere, somewhere that's not as competitive where he could play guard at his size without a problem. I think he's a good player. Talking to people around the program, they think this guy can play. Certainly for teams in the FBS, it was tough for him in Miami because you're competing with just big kids, right? Just bigger, more athletic guys that make it tough for him. So I think good decision from him. He was extremely loyal when he committed. He was recruiting for that 23 class. He was on Twitter every day, getting guys in the class, making guys want to be Miami Hurricanes. He made sure his IMG teammates, Riley Williams, Jaden Wayne, who's now since moved on to Washington, Francis Malinois, who looks like a top 10 pick, making sure those guys got in the boat for Miami. So,
so you're telling me he's a Mustang.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe like a Ja'Kai Clark. I saw Ja'Kai Clark, former Miami center, made second team all ACC.
Like Ja'Kai Clark, like Brashard Smith, like Elijah Roberts, like Harrison Hunt, like Harvey.
Yeah, I think it's a fit for him.
Like Keyshawn Smith.
Or, the MAC. I mean, he's from Baltimore. So, he's from that northeast area, not that far from some of these schools. So I could see that kind of being a fit, like a Temple, not far from his hometown. I can see those kind of places for an Antonio trip. He's a guy, again, he's been coached well for the last 2 years. He's got a lot of intangible qualities. And, I think it's a good move for both sides for him to move on. And we'll be cheering for him to have success, like some of these SMU guys have had success. Hopefully it doesn't cost Miami a trip to the ACC championship game. But other than that, wish him a lot of success.
We have a comment here from H. Cheeb saying, is Miami going to wait to grab a quarterback in the portal like they did with Cam Ward? I hope not. I've mentioned this a couple times the last few weeks here. They did not wait to go get a quarterback last year. They had both Will Howard and Cam Ward visiting basically this next week coming up a year ago at that time. So basically in 5 days' time, they already had Will Howard and Cam Ward on campus visiting. They were trying to lock it up right then and there. Will Howard obviously ended up going to Ohio State, and Cam Ward was wrestling with NFL. But guys like Caden Salter were also being talked to when he was in the portal, right? There was a lot of other names that came into the mix. They did not wait just because Ward didn't commit. They would have liked to have it done way before that, obviously.
Yeah, there was a thought that it might get done on signing day. Now, signing day last year was further down than it is this year. They moved signing day up for the portal to have more space and not to overlap the two so much. But a lot of people very connected to the program, within the program, thought that Cam Ward would get done on signing day. Hopefully with Jeremiah Smith at the same time. That didn't happen. But ultimately it ended up fine. He came to Miami. I think it cost us a receiver in the portal window because it's hard to get elite portal receiver without having a quarterback. So we
wouldn't have needed one if you got Jeremiah Smith, though.
That's a fact. But they ended up getting Sam Brown in the second portal. I don't know how that worked out. I know folks are disappointed with how he played. But I agree that the perfect world, you get that portal quarterback sooner than later. And I can confirm, talking to people within the program, they want to get that one done earlier because they know that's how they're going to get the other guys. So Miami did very well in that post-winter window because you had Cam Ward already there. So you got Damian Martinez, you got a lot of these guys, but they want to work faster for sure. And I think that's part of the reason why I expect to see a quarterback in play earlier than last year, which was right before classes started in January with Cam Ward. I think you'll get a much, much, much earlier quarterback situation here. But remember, the portal doesn't even officially open until December 9th. So next week, we're already getting a lot of action. Next week, I think you're going to see a flurry of action in the portal with quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, defensive ends, secondary, all places where you could see Miami do work. If I'm guessing where Miami's going to really focus. Quarterback, wide receiver 1, offensive line, not numbers, but quality. Maybe a blocking tight end. I hope they go that route. Defensive end, defensive tackle. Again, probably more quality than quantity because you got young guys that got to play. I would love to see a tackling linebacker, tackle machine linebacker. You've already seen multiple linebackers enter the portal that have over 120 tackles last year. You need a guy like that, even if he's not a physically imposing mauler. Just get me somebody that can make tackles. You saw how we got killed on the perimeter last year. Just someone who can run and hit, make tackles, even if they're not the biggest. Safety, corner. I think 3 DBs, 3D line, 1 linebacker, 1 offensive line, and of course, 1 quarterback and a wide receiver 1. That's how I'm seeing this thing playing out.
I want to get to any more of these questions here, D. Brandon asking about Alford, what had happened there on signing day.
I'm digging. I'll find out. I was always told that was 50-50. So I'm not surprised that worked out that way, but I was surprised that the buzz built right before and then it went the other way. So I'll find out exactly what happened with that. UK fan, what about Ryan Day allegedly taking the Bears job? Jeremiah transferred. Did that happen already? He took the Bears job?
No, I think he's like, I think he said there's a rumor.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, these Pete Thamel tweets have been so surprising lately between the Malzahn and now, what was it, the Lincoln Riley talking to UCF?
He said, what about Ryan Day allegedly? So I think it's a rumor.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter right now. I'm not seeing anything here. I will say,
I don't know if Ryan Day is the answer for the Bears, quite frankly.
Here's a big portal entry. This is a tight end market in the portal, by the way. So Miami doesn't need a tight end. I don't think they go in this direction, but hopefully these tight ends eat up some budgets of some competitors that are maybe in the Big Ten or the SEC. Lucas Haas from Arkansas just entered the portal, who's one of the better tight ends in the nation. I don't know what his numbers were this year, but he was a stud. Right? What were Lucas Haas's numbers this year? He's an NFL type tight end. I think he had 2 NFL tight ends enter the portal here.
Let me pull it up
today.
They're in a bit of disarray over there. So.
Yeah, if you like anybody in Arkansas, now is the time to hunt, because if this guy's entering the portal, this guy was a extremely highly rated recruit. Looking at the stats, 324 yards, 4 touchdowns. Not, I guess, what he's hoping
and he's
for.
6'3", 240. So I don't know if he's that profile you'd be looking for in terms of blocking tight end. Maybe he is. I got to watch him.
Kyle saying Jackson Arnold's last 3 games, less than 300 total passing yards and 0 touchdowns. They had no receivers and they had no line. He was running it most of the time. You saw them beat Oklahoma. He was the quarterback for that game, running it. I think with Jackson Arnold, it's like Bo Nix. Look at Bo Nix's Auburn numbers and look at his Oregon numbers. They don't even look like the same quarterback. And then he goes to the pros. He looks more like the Oregon quarterback or the high school quarterback than the Auburn quarterback. So don't underestimate what the system can do for a quarterback like this, especially when you're playing SEC competition. You know, that's something to watch. So here, I got a question here I want to get to. Anthony Manzano, give me top 10 quarterbacks are going to go after the portal that you feel will fit Dawson's offense the best. 10's a lot.
Right off the top of the head.
10's a lot. I don't know if there's 10 that would fit. And I don't know who's going to enter the portal yet. In terms of guys that I think are highly likely to enter, I think Mateer's highly likely to enter the portal. You lose your offensive coordinator. He's losing all kinds of players from that Washington State team. I'd be shocked if he stays in. So even though he's not officially entered, I could see him entering, and I'll mention his name. To me, he's the best potential guy. Run, throw. Reminds me a lot of Jalen Hurts when Jalen Hurts was at Oklahoma. He's been rumored to go to Oklahoma. Talk about Mateer because his offensive coordinator went there. I think that would be an insane move for the same reasons we just said. Oklahoma's got no running back or no receivers, no running game, and no offensive line. So why would you go there to be in a tough situation? Yeah, you're playing SEC defenses, but you don't have an SEC team around you. That seems like a losing proposition for me, even if you have a great relationship with the OC. To me, it makes more sense to call up my old buddy Cam Ward and say, hey, Cam, how is it like playing with these offensive linemen? And gets the real answer, which I think is going to be a favorable answer for Miami. Obviously, we know the results. So Mateer, as someone who's likely to enter, would be my first choice. Of the guys that are in the portal, Miller Mosses of the world, Caden Salters, I personally think Jackson Arnold, intangible-wise, running ability, arm strength, arm talent, experience. This guy started SEC games, so you're not taking a true freshman, but you are getting the equivalent of what's a 5-star player, 2 years of eligibility, so he can guide you through there till the next guy, till Luke Nickel or whoever's ready. That's my guy that I think makes a lot of sense. I would prefer a Jackson Arnold over an Emery just because, again, I think we just need a little more athleticism than what we currently have at backup quarterback. But we'll see. That'd be my as far as the names that are in there, that's how I would stack.
Well, and it's also tough to say who's a good fit because one, we don't know if Dawson's gonna be back, right? And two, even if he is, you're not gonna find an exact carbon copy of Cam Ward. I think a lot of the guys that you are potentially looking at have more of a running element to their game, where it's a focus, right? Ward could get yards with his feet, but I think with some of these other guys, they have, some legit juice when they're running, and you can factor that into the offensive scheme a little bit more. So that's another thing to look at.
Yeah, I think I don't see this situation when it comes to the offense. And again, we'll see what happens with Shannon Dawson, whether he goes pro or not. I don't see a sea change in what we do on offense. I mean, you're the number one offense in the country, right? Kind of want to stick with what worked. So I think you're going to see a similar running game, which is, of course, the running game that Mirabal and Coach Cristobal bring to the table, their running game with an air raid passing attack. I think that's whether Dawson stays or not. I think that is the direction we continue to go, because how could you switch up from something that was the number one offense in the country? You just keep rolling it through. The running game stays the same. The passing concepts stay the same. Your receivers know what they're doing. Your quarterbacks that are already on your roster know what they're doing. The offensive line doesn't change. Obviously, you're going to have the same coach there. Your tight ends. I think on offense, even if you lose a Dawson, I think it's going to be more about stability than anything. Defense, I think everything's on the table. And me personally, I think you need a head coach on defense, everything top down from him if you do make a change at the top. I'll tell you one place that does not need to change, but changes with the seasons to make sure you guys are getting the right apparel, and that is the Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com if you're not local. If you are local, right there next to the Thesis Hotel across the street from the University of Miami on US 1, the official retailer of the University of Miami. Look at all that holiday gift stuff you can get for yourself or for others, the sweaters, the hats, or if you just want to get holiday gifts, the Cam Ward youth jersey, the Cam Ward adult jersey, all kinds of stuff, female, male, youth, adult, you name it. What sport, basketball, baseball, football. This is the official apparel provider, so they got everything exclusive. Use promo code INSIGHT20. You get 20% off your first item. That's if you're there in person, or if you're in Chicago, Illinois, or Charlotte, North Carolina, or Atlanta, Georgia, like a lot of folks on this, or Botswana, Africa, like my man Martin, who listens to this show. Go to MiamiHTS.com, promo code INSIGHT20. You get the same 20% off the first item that those who use the promo code in the store get. So appreciate everybody supporting us, but support the school by getting your retail done at Miami HTS with the promo code. Works out for everybody.
D, why'd you have to mention Charlotte, man? Too soon.
Oh, yeah. We could have been there. We would have been there right now.
Yeah.
I can't say the weather would have been better, but it would have been a better feeling for sure.
It's supposed to be in the 20s, 30s. So
is it really?
That's what someone told me. Yeah. Might be wrong, but
yeah. Who do you think's going to win tomorrow?
You know what? I've kind of zoned that game out because of my heartbreak. I didn't really even want to think that the game was happening. Someone was asking us who we wanted to win. I don't care one way or another. But I think Clemson wins that game. Yeah, me too. I think they just got more talent up and down, more balance. Phil Maffei, I think, is going to play a big role when they need him. He'll be running it the way that Martinez and Fletcher would have been running it if we were in that game. Yeah. Tough break. But man, listen, appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe to this podcast every day with the portal. We're going to give you the absolute latest on who's jumping in, who Miami has interest in, Miami's visits, who they're setting up with. We will give it to you here on the Canes Insight Daily podcast. So like and subscribe. Appreciate you all joining us. Go Canes. Go Canes.